Public Forum is brought to you by the U.S. Embassy and 51% Coalition with Panis Caribbean as implementing partner.
It gives me great pleasure to welcome you here today and to chair this public forum on the U.S. presidential election process. This election, like all others and in all countries, is a significant process in the democracy of lives of the people, in this case the United States and the rest of the world. Before I introduce both speakers, I invite Mr. Joshua Polacek to address us very briefly.
I'm the spokesperson and the counselor for public affairs at the U.S. Embassy based here in Kingston. Our job as the embassy is to represent all the American people. We are actually governed by very strict laws that don't allow me to do that or that. I have to very, very much stay neutral and in the middle. And all political activity is banned by the embassy and employees of the federal government while we're on the clock. Diplomats are always on the clock, so we're banned from political activity when we're overseas. And so with that, because of the, I would say, strong interest, some might even say intense interest of the Jamaican people in the U.S. election, we decided to work with Washington to bring a representative from each of the political parties here who can give their perspective on what's going on in the election. They can advocate for the policies, the party, and their candidate of their respective right or left party without putting the embassy in a political position. And so with that, I want to thank you all for coming. I'm not going to put anybody on the spot now, but I would encourage you to continue to engage, to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. We do all these sorts of activities, not usually on such exciting topics, but on a wide variety of topics, including studying the United States and economic opportunities for our two countries to work together, and we put most of that out on social media. So with that, I'd like to call Mr. Green up, and he will begin the discussion.
Please go ahead and do that. To my left, I have Mr. Moises Mo Velo. Served in President Obama's administration as a Director of Administrations and Senior Advisor in the Office of Vice President Joe Biden. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Velo to the podium, and he has 10 minutes in which to make his presentation, and then he will follow immediately by Mr. Hill.
Thank you for being here and taking time out of your day to be here with us. You are the future of Jamaica, and thus you are the future of the world. And it is truly a privilege for me from the bottom of my heart to be here with all of you so far away from my home in the capital of the United States. I bring you greetings from our nation's capital. This election is, frankly, of all the years I've been involved in national politics, and having served twice, as Mr. Green mentioned, in the White House, having had the privilege of serving two presidents and two vice presidents right up close in the middle of all the action in the White House, I have to tell you, I've never seen anything like this election. And I'll be honest with you, I pray to God that we never see another one like it again. Yeah. It is historic in so many ways. I wish we had listened and watched and learned from the Jamaican people a long time ago, because you have had women in leadership roles in government and in business long before we were smart enough to do that in the United States. So hopefully we're going to follow your lead and elect Mrs. Clinton on November 8th, and we will finally have a woman in a leadership role. Let me tell you what I believe this election comes down to. I've never seen people watching this election more passionately than the people I've met in Jamaica this week. You're watching it with more interest than half of the people in the United States. And I'm so impressed. Frankly, I'm humbled by it and I'm touched. I'm inspired by your interest in our election because you're smart enough to know that our elections affect you and your elections affect us because we are now a global family and a global community. We're connected. We will forever be connected. So I think it's amazing that you're so interested in our election. Let me tell you what I believe in my heart this election comes down to, again, having been involved in several in my career. This election, like no other, and like so many others, yet like most, but in such a weird way, this one has come down to the fact that whoever leads our country, whoever we elect in our country, one thing, whether it was from the Republican Party or from the Democratic Party, they always led with moral responsibility and with human decency and with just a fundamental respect for humanity. This election has absolutely tossed that concept of decency into the air. And we have to hope, I believe in my fellow Americans, they're smart enough to elect Mrs. Clinton because electing a Donald Trump would take us into an immoral lack of decency that we've never seen in the history of our nation, ever, ever. Our president, whether we like it or not, and whether it's right or wrong or not, is the leader of, they say, the free world, as they say, right? So whether you agree with that or not, the fact of the matter is that who we elect our president is being watched by the world, including you here in Jamaica, because I think you expect a level of responsibility from our country and from our leader. And so therefore, let's talk about that. We have a choice on November 8th in the United States, a very stark, contrasted choice. It's never been so night and day, ever, in American politics. You have a woman who for 30 years in all her adult life has been fighting since she graduated from law school for families and children and making sure there's social justice and civil rights and equality and that all people are treated with basic human dignity. 30 years in her whole life, whether it was the First Lady of Arkansas, as an attorney in the Children's Defense Fund, whether it was as First Lady of the United States, and then as the United States Senator, and now as the Secretary of State up until about 18 months ago, 20 months ago. This woman has demonstrated the absolute best of what our country offers the world. Steady leadership, compassionate leadership, good, reasonable judgment, a heart of love, a campaign of promise and positiveness and positivity. We on the Democratic side, if you haven't noticed, for 18 months, we look at America as a glass half full. Mr. Trump and his supporters look at our country as a glass half empty. I know the Jamaican people love life. You love life and you celebrate life. So I think you share that value, that life is about hope and about thinking positive and as working together, as Mrs. Clinton has always said, we are stronger together. Let's go through what we're up against, okay? It could be American values, and they're probably very similar to Jamaican values. And here we are on a university campus run by the Seventh-day Adventist Church, where I was told by one of your professors that you actually go to chapel twice a week. So in your prayerful personal time with your God, think about these things. Think about these things. This is a man who literally mocked a disabled reporter from the New York Times. He mimicked a man who was born with a disability. That's not who I want to show you as a leader of the United States. This is a man who disrespected and discredited a Gold Star family. In America, we take our veterans, we honor our veterans, we celebrate our veterans. And this family lost their son in the Iraq War, or in Afghanistan. Honestly, I'm not entirely sure which one it was. However, they lost their son. And what did Mr. Trump do? He discredited him. We don't do that. That's un-American. That's who the Republicans have asked you to vote for if you're an American. This is a man, mind you, when you're praying, think about this concept. This is a man who has called women pigs and snobs, and who referred to his daughter as in a sexual innuendo manner. Think about that. That's not a Jamaican value. That's not an American value. This is a man who all of you watched. I hope you were in as much shock as we were in the United States, who on a videotape that has now been seen around the world, how embarrassing for our country that this man from the Republican Party who thinks he should be our president, who thinks he should be the leader of the free world, who on a tape admitted that he sexually assaulted a woman because he's powerful and he's rich and he can grope and touch and offensively touch and abuse and assault a woman without her permission. That's not a Jamaican value, and that's not an American value. And that's why we're not voting for him. This is a man who's had 11 women. I think it might be 12. I'm not even sure. 11 for sure. 12? Okay. This is a man who has 11 women who have come forward to say that he assaulted them, accosted them, kissed them, touched them, groped them without their permission. That's not a Jamaican value, and that's not an American value. This is a man who hasn't paid federal taxes in the United States for over 10 years. But yet he wants to say he wants to make America great again. I have news for all of you here in Jamaica. We don't need to make America great again. America never stopped being great. America's been a friend of Jamaica's for many years. That friendship is going to get stronger under Secretary Clinton and under President Clinton. God, that sounds good, doesn't it? That relationship and that friendship, she understands the value of our allies. She understands, as a former Secretary of State, how important it is to work with our friends, to create trade that benefits both countries, right? To not talk about deporting people. How about this deportation force? We have to be worried about our Jamaican cousins and brothers and sisters who are in the United States who may be undocumented. This man wants to actually knock on their door, put them in a bus or ship them on a plane or put them on a boat and send them home after they've paid taxes and contributed to our society and are an important part of our American family. That's not a Jamaican value, and that's not an American value. I look forward to your questions, and I look forward to getting in on some policy matters because we're going to win on those too. So thank you.
To my right, I have Mr. Walter Brian Mike Hill. He's a Republican member of the Florida House of Representatives, representing the 2nd District, which includes southern Escambia County and parts of the Gulf Breeze in Santa Rosa County. At this time, I invite Mr. Hill to make his 10-minute presentation.
It is my honor to be able to share with you just a little bit about the stark difference between our two parties, the Democrat Party and the Republican Party. And I think this quote can pretty much sum up what that distinction is. I do not choose to be a common man. It is my right to be uncommon if I can. I seek opportunity, not security. I do not wish to be a kept citizen, humbled and dulled by having the state look after me. I want to take the calculated risk, to dream and to build, to fail and to succeed. I prefer the challenges of life to the guaranteed existence, the thrill of fulfillment to the stale calm of utopia. That creed was first published in the United States publication Reader's Digest in 1952. And 64 years later, I would say that quote is more pertinent now than even was then. Why? Because it speaks of a very fundamental concept, and that is freedom. Freedom for you to live your life how you please, not how someone else will dictate to you. And that cornerstone, freedom, was first announced to the world in the U.S. Declaration of Independence. It says, we hold these truths to be self-evident. In other words, everybody knows this, that all men are created equal. Doesn't mean equal outcome, doesn't necessarily mean equal opportunity. The equality is referring to the next statement, that they are endowed by their Creator. Our founding fathers acknowledged the one true living God, endowed by that Creator with certain inalienable rights, which means they come from God and not from man or a government, among which are life. Life begins at conception. Make no mistake, killing a child in the womb is wrong. That child was given that life by a living God and has the right to exist just like anyone else, despite if it causes you inconvenience in your life. Liberty. Liberty says that you have the choice to decide your future, not someone else who's going to dictate to you what you can and can't do, or if you're not born in the right family or in the right level of society or with enough money. Liberty says that you have the freedom to decide that yourself. And then the pursuit of happiness. In the original documents, that talks about private property rights. In other words, that declaration was saying that you have a God-given right to begin a family if you so choose, to work, earn a meaningful living, and with that purchase property that belongs to you, that you can become a contributing member of your community and worship your God how you please. That cornerstone set the foundation for our U.S. Constitution, the longest living Constitution in the world right now, except for one other. The state of Massachusetts is 1 year longer. Other than that, the U.S. Constitution is the longest surviving Constitution. It is a document that is looked at by all other nations around the world. For this reason, for the first time in human history, the people were placed at the top and government was placed at the bottom. That government is there to serve the people. The people are not there to serve the government. The preamble to our Constitution says, we the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty for ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. Amen. Amen. I believe it was not a God-breathed document, but I think a God-inspired document, because it speaks of freedom. Set the people free. And why is that so important? Because without freedom, you cannot have prosperity. This is the difference between the Democrat Party and the Republican Party. The Republican Party says you are to be free. The Democrat Party says, we're going to tell you how much freedom you're going to have. That's the difference you see between the two candidates. Donald Trump is a businessman, and I cannot say that I can defend all the words that he has said, and I won't even try to. But this much I do know. He understands business. He understands the importance of global trade. He understands free trade. What you are going to see, I believe, should Donald Trump become elected, and by the way, I believe he's going to win. Should Donald Trump become elected, what you are going to see is a continuation, and I would suspect even an increase in the amount of trade that is happening right now between Jamaica and the United States. Donald Trump is not going to deport Jamaicans from America. He is not going to pull anyone's visas who are there studying or who are working. Now, what is important to know is that right now it is important for a nation that is sovereign to protect its borders, just like it would be important for you to protect your household. Could you imagine opening your front and back door and say, whoever wants to come in, come in. Whatever you want to eat, help yourself. That's not even logical. You have to secure your borders, you have to protect them, and then those who have come here illegally, and there are many who have come illegally, they must go back to their own country. Now, how that's going to happen, don't know. In what time frame, don't know. But we do know that you cannot reward illegal behavior. Why? If you reward illegal behavior, you will get more of it. So you'll have more people coming to the country illegally. There is a legal process to become a United States citizen. There's a legal process to come into the country, just like there is in Jamaica. That determines the sovereignty of a nation. That is the only logical way that you can be a nation. Otherwise, it becomes the burden of the taxpayers to pay for those who are there illegally. What do I mean by that? We know that a vast majority of the illegals who are coming do not have the education level to be able to secure meaningful employment to support themselves. So what are they doing? They are accepting the social welfare benefits that are available in the United States. We're a compassionate nation, so we give it to them. However, that is on the backs of the U.S. taxpayers. They are being forced to pay for something that they have no choice in and should not. They should be able to spend their income on their families and on their future, not on someone who broke the law. All that being said, these four principles is what causes a nation to prosper. In fact, causes a people to prosper. Limited government, low taxes, personal freedom, and individual responsibility. It has been proven in a crucible of world history. It is not anecdotal. We have empirical evidence that wherever those principles are allowed to operate, the people prosper all around the world. And the United States is the biggest example of that happening. There's going to be a clear choice to make on November 8th. I believe what we're going to see is the party of freedom, the party of choice, the party of prosperity, the Republican Party, Mr. Donald Trump, succeed and be elected on November 8th. I look forward to your questions. It's going to be a spirited debate. I know that already. And thank you so much for having me here today. Thank you.
We are now ready for the question and answers, finally. And we know many of us have questions here today, and both gentlemen are prepared to provide the appropriate answers.
Since Ronald Reagan, the Caribbean is not getting the attention from the U.S. in terms of economic investment similar to the Chinese, and what is the focus on the Monroe Doctrine?
Jamaica's largest trading partner right now is the United States, and that should continue. What we are seeing right now is your largest exports to the United States is aluminum oxide and aluminum ore and petroleum products. What is coming in from the United States is primarily, number one, petroleum products, then automobiles, and then we're seeing medicine are the three largest imports. But yes, that should be increased at the benefit of both nations. Whenever the Caribbean Basin is benefiting, so does the United States.
Thank you very much.
Okay, let me answer the question you actually asked, okay? Because your question wasn't about aluminum oxide. Your question was that China is investing more money in Jamaica than the United States is from private and direct investment. Is that correct?
That's correct.
That's what I thought. So, I had the privilege of visiting with our ambassador, Ambassador Moreno. I am not an expert on our programs and what's all the economic impact that's of America's investing in Jamaica at this moment. I couldn't give you exact figures. I do know that I heard the ambassador say to me personally and a meeting with him this week that is one of his highest priorities, if not his highest priority, is to encourage private and direct investment from investors in the United States and corporations and companies in the United States, because I think it's absolutely wrong that China is out investing us in Jamaica and in the Caribbean Basin.
Good afternoon, everyone. Well, my name is Patience Bazwaye Alonge. I'm from the biology department. My question goes to the two candidates. When you look at the U.S., a lot of lives after they are being born are being destroyed with weapons, guns. So I'm wondering, what will these two candidates do specifically to reduce the loss of lives by young teenagers taking guns to school and shooting everybody around? What is the control measure that will be in place? Because that in itself is having impact on us in Jamaica. Thank you.
I think what Secretary Clinton has very obviously been saying way before she started running for president was that we respect our Second Amendment, and the Republican Party, they're going to hang their hat on that Second Amendment. You'll hear in a minute that they don't want any limitations on that Second Amendment. So what the Republican Party would tell you is there should be no controls on guns. What we will tell you on the Democratic side is our Supreme Court has already ruled on this. And they've already made the law of the land that we are able to actually limit certain weaponry from getting into the hands of the wrong people. So I know Secretary Clinton shares my thoughts on this, which is that, you know what, it's not about keeping people from being able to go hunt if that's what they use their guns for, or for entertainment, but where the problem lies is keeping guns out of the hands of the wrong people.
Thank you, Mr.
That's
Hill.
where the problem lies.
Thank you very much.
The Republican Party platform says they are against abortion because of this fact, that all people are made in the image of God and deserve the dignity of life and being treated with respect. The Democrat platform does not even have God in their platform. They specifically removed it, and at a convention 4 years ago, they booed when people said, should we include God in our platform? You cannot have a godless society and survive. The Republican Party must continue to exert life, liberty, and a pursuit of happiness. The other part you had was about gun control. Our Second Amendment says the right to bear arms is not to be infringed upon. No one in the government has the right to tell you you're the wrong person, you're the wrong person, you're the wrong person by some arbitrary measure because they think they are superior to you and can tell you that you can own it or not. You have that freedom of choice yourself.
Thank you.
Okay, good afternoon. My name is Jonathan Bailey, and my question is directed to Mr. Hill. Sir, could you please comment as to whether or not the members of the Republican Party deems Donald Trump's controversial actions and comments as fitting to becoming the leader of the United States? And if it was Mrs. Clinton who purported these same actions, would you use it against her as political leverage, or would you make excuses for her?
You haven't heard me make any kind of excuse for Mr. Trump. I think that the comments that he made were deplorable, as Ms. Clinton has called them. No one can defend those kind of comments, and I'm not going to try to. They were inappropriate. They should not have been said. He had no idea that he was being recorded. He was a private citizen at the time, and it happened many years ago. So despite all that, I'm still not going to try and defend it. It was still inappropriate. If Hillary Clinton made those kind of comments, I wouldn't try to defend those either. Which, by the way, she is not pure as the wind-driven snow. She has also made some comments which were very inappropriate. You just don't hear about it in our mainstream media. That's why I tell you to do your homework and study for yourself. Mr. Trump, if he did make those comments, that's a fact. I believe now, when he is elected as President of the United States, he understands you can't make comments like that. You simply can't. And he's going to have advisors around him to make sure that he doesn't.
So, young man, to answer your question, what I just heard, I'm sure you just heard the same thing. Character, morality, integrity, they don't seem to matter to the Republican Party and Donald Trump. They matter to me. They matter to me. Because whoever we elect as our president, as our 45th president, will be a role model to all of us around the world. Since when being a criminal is okay in private, but not in public? So that is just a ridiculous argument. Now, is that 1 minute? So, here's the deal. Those weren't comments, my friends, brethren and sistrens. That was an admission of being a sexual predator.
To Mr. Hill and Mr. Villa, what is your final words to get the undecisive persons to vote on November 8th?
Why do I think you should vote for Secretary Clinton? Because it's just this simple. Do you want an experienced, qualified, the most prepared, the most equipped candidate in the modern times of the United States to be president? Or do you want a man, speaking of God, maybe they need to go inform their own candidate about God, right? Because he mocked a disabled reporter, he calls women pigs, he assaulted women. So, it's just a decency vote. You vote for the woman who's equipped, prepared, who's moral and responsible, and who will be a leader that we can be proud of around the world. Or you send this buffoon who's an embarrassment to the United States. It's that simple.
Thank you.
I'm not quite sure why Mr. Vela cannot respond without disparaging someone else. I don't understand why he needs to do that instead of just present his perspective. This is what I believe, that should Hillary Clinton be elected, and if Hillary Clinton is elected, or if Donald Trump is elected, what you will see in the United States is a smooth transition of power. It will be accepted whoever wins that presidency. Now, Hillary Clinton, should she win, would have more baggage coming into the White House than any president in recent history. It is the fraud that she has committed with her Clinton Family Foundation. It is the emails that she destroyed, that she tried to hide from public scrutiny and also from justice. There is the fact that she may have been in 112 countries, but you tell me one thing she's done. Nobody can name anything significant that she has accomplished. Now, Mr. Trump, on the other hand, instead of talking about a person's character, let's talk about their ability to get things done. He has demonstrated that as a businessman, he can make decisions which benefit both sides. So I think what you are going to see is someone who will come in, benefit both sides of a transaction. And it is important when he says make America great again, it is important for America to be great, because when America is great, so is the entire Caribbean basin. When America is not great, then it affects everyone else. So I would say to you, when you make your choice, don't listen just to what you hear on the news. Instead, study. Do your own study, do your own background information, and see which one you think would be the best president for the United States.
I invite Norel Jacobs-Gray from NCU to do a brief presentation. Let us welcome her.
For me, I wanted to look at it from a three-pronged standpoint in terms of what the impact of the U.S. elections would have on Jamaica and the wider Caribbean. And so I wanted to look at it from an economic standpoint, a social standpoint, and a geopolitical standpoint. I think based on what our presenters did this afternoon, Mr. Vela and Mr. Hill, it kind of encompasses those three areas too as well. So economically, it is of my view that closer economic cooperation could boost job creation within the wider Caribbean basin and Jamaica itself. I see whereby if support is given in terms of an entrepreneurship agenda to foster growth of small businesses, I think that would be good too, to foster new ideas within Jamaica and the region. I'm seeing whereby a possible change, however, in immigration policies could lead to a reduction in travel, as if we all, as students, sometimes we go off on a summer overseas work program, so that would be of concern to you guys as you try to, you know, save or earn your tuition for the upcoming semester. So if that should occur, I'm sure it would be of concern to you guys too as well. The possible reduction in foreign exchange remittance as a result of deportation, and of course all the points that I put forward this afternoon can be looked at from a positive or negative standpoint, okay? They're right in the middle. So if we look at a reduction in foreign exchange or remittances based on the fact that so many of us have family members within the US, we could see social implications resulting as a side effect of that. So a reduction in direct foreign investment could stifle economic growth, and so as we look forward to the November 8th results, we hope that whoever takes the seat at the end will remember us within this region and Jamaica. Socially, as I mentioned, economic hardship has social implications, and we could see a decrease in employment, increase in poverty as a result of decreased resources or income, and of course, increase in socioeconomic problems. Geopolitical. It is said that Jamaica and the Caribbean were literally in the backyard of the United States of America. And we all know the saying that if America sneezes, we catch a cold here. I had a slide that would have literally highlighted the proximity of Jamaica and the Caribbean basin to the US so that you could see it more visually. However, we'll proceed. But as we look at the location, the proximity, the importance of the Caribbean region, it is significant. We as a region, we receive visitors. Majority of our visitors within the region comes from the US. In terms of our earning potential, it's enormous, and I'll share some of those figures with you. As a tourism person, I cannot help but do so. So in terms of, what did I do with it? Right, so for the Caribbean on a whole, 28 million people visited the Caribbean, and we earned approximately US $30 billion as a result of tourist travel, all right? So where Jamaica is concerned, we received 3.7 million people who visited our region, and US $2.5 billion were earned. Now, with America being our largest market in terms of where we receive our visitors from, arrival figures to the point as of June 2016 was 147,000 plus visitors to Jamaica now, not even the region. So we can see the implications if there is a fallout or a change in some of the policies related to freedom of movement between borders, freedom of movement or restrictions of movement, the excess maybe deportation that we may see. We could also look at the fact that if economic issues are improved within the US, yes, there will be more disposable income. We may see some of the jobs that persons within our region that will generally take up. Maybe residents may take those up too as well. Chances are that could lead to probably, if they're not so inclined to do external trips outside of the U.S., but you may find them doing more staycations instead. And so with that being said, you may find less income from tourism for us as a region. And as a region, outside of all the other avenues within which we earn, tourism is one of the major income earners for us. So that is indeed of concern for us. So thinking back to the location and where we are and the importance and significance of the region, we want to look at the fact that if there is a tighter control on borders, as we look at what's happening in trying to prevent drug trafficking, terrorism, etc., chances are you may see a shifting in terms of where persons choose their base from. All right, we may find challenges in terms of ease because within the Caribbean region, our structure may not be as great as that of the U.S. You may find that they may utilize more less manned borders to be doing some of these things. So as the policies look at changing, we would hope that not only will the U.S. secure their own borders, but they will help us within the region then as they tighten theirs to also tighten ours. So counter narcotics, anti-terrorism, cybercrime is of major importance, and scamming, which has been a headache for us within Jamaica, we would want to be able to seek assistance or gain or maintain assistance with those policies and agreements that have been in place. So my final thoughts, the result of the November 8th election in the U.S. is no doubt important to Jamaica and the region. Critical implications as it could lead to economic prosperity as well as a economic demise. We want to see and we look forward to new partnerships either way the results go. We're looking for, as I mentioned before, support for small businesses within the region. And we would love to see continuation of beneficial trade agreements. We would love to see continuation of strategic alliances as it relates to crime fighting or social interventions. And then two, the seasonal work programs and the reduction in free movement of people for economic or other reasons, we would want to have the opportunity to still be able to have this benefit, so to speak, still afforded to us. And so whoever takes a seat following the November 8th results, we hope that it won't be a myopic focus on the U.S. only, but as we operate in a global environment, that they will also think of Jamaica and the wider Caribbean in that sense. And so I would just want to encourage those of us who have voting rights to use wisdom as you exercise your franchise on November 8th. And yes, we look forward to brighter days to come. Thank you.
Ms. Gray, I think she deserves another round of applause. Well said. We must thank our organizers, we must thank the speakers, and we must say special thanks to the U.S. Embassy, the 51 Coalition who they have partnered with, and the Parnassus Group. Can we give them a round of applause? Thank you very much, and have a blessed day.
Public Forum was brought to you by the U.S. Embassy and 51% Coalition with Panis Caribbean as implementing partner.